Satyamayi Parame Satyamayi Parame Satyam Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyoti Aravinda Satyam Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyoti Aravinda Satyam Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyoti Aravinda Jyoti Aravinda. So we'll begin with that metaphor of, in China they use a monkey trap where they have a jar with a narrow mouth so the monkey's hand can go in, but there are fruits inside. So if the monkey picks up the fruit, he can't take his hand out. So he's trapped in the jar because he won't let go of the fruit. What is it that traps us? What is the fruit that we hold on to which traps us and takes away our freedom? Attachment. And attachment comes from? Where does attachment come from? Why do we get attached to things? Constant thinking, constant thought, choice. Who said that? You said that, choice. Because we are constantly conditioned to choose. We choose one thing over the other and that becomes attachment. We choose one thing less than another and that becomes aversion. So because we are constantly choosing, that is our bondage. But how can we live without choice? Is it really possible to live without choosing? Can we live without choosing? Yes or no? When say a sage like Ramana Maharishi would live without choice, right? Because if he said he gets one thought in a month, without thought he can't choose. So how would he live without choosing? What would make it possible for him to live? Surrender. And surrender, actually, for a sage like that, it's beyond surrender also, because you don't have, first there's non-acceptance and then there's surrender. But if there's no non-acceptance for him, there's no question of surrender, because everything is just received as it is. There's no questioning to his vision. Everything is an unfolding of God and there's nothing to choose. And if you really go to see even trees which have roots deep into the earth, and if there's a water source many meters away, a tree has no mind, no ego, no thought, but the intelligence operating through it organically will lead the roots to the water source, right? So even without thinking, everything is happening the way it has to happen. In fact, we often add a lot of chaos and confusions and obstacles because we keep thinking. And because we keep thinking, we keep choosing. And that is really the bondage. So I'm going to read you some Osho's words. Choice is bondage, choicelessness, freedom. The moment you choose something, you have fallen in the trap of the world. If you can resist the temptation to choose, if you can remain choicelessly aware, the trap disappears on its own accord. Because when you don't choose, you don't help the trap to be there. The trap is also created by your choice. So this word choice is to be understood very deeply, because only through that understanding can choicelessness flower in you. The moment you say, this car is beautiful, choice has entered. You may not be aware at all that you have chosen, that you would like to possess this car. But in the mind, a fantasy has entered, a desire has arisen. When you say something is beautiful, you mean that you would like to have it. When you say something is ugly, you mean that you would not like to have it. Things are neither bad nor good. The quality of goodness and badness is introduced by you. Things are neither beautiful nor ugly. They are simply there as they are. The quality of being beautiful and ugly is introduced by you. It is your interpretation. In nature, nothing is good and nothing is bad. And remember, Tantra is the loose and natural way. So many of us have a wrong idea of Tantra. Traditionally, there are two paths, the paths of yoga, which is asceticism, practice. Tantra is the way of surrender to the mother, being completely loose and natural. Yeah, because our conditioning is there. We'll come to it. In nature, nothing is good and nothing is bad. And remember, Tantra is the loose and natural way. It wants to bring you to the deepest, most natural phenomena of life. It wants to help you drop from the mind. The mind creates distinctions, and mind says this is to be chosen and that is to be avoided. To this you cling, and to that you would avoid and escape from. Look at the whole phenomenon. Just a look is needed, nothing else. No practice is needed, just a look at the whole situation. Tantra says, remember, when you choose something, whenever you decide for this or against this, it is your mind playing tricks. Don't say the thing is beautiful. Just simply say, I am affected in a nice way, but the base remains I. If once you transfer the whole phenomenon on the object, then it can never be solved. If you say the object is ugly, you can't solve it. But if you say the object in me is ugly, then at least there's a recognition that it's in me. In another mind, it may not be ugly. If once you transfer the whole phenomenon on the object, then it can never be solved, because from the first step you missed the root. The root is you. So if you are affected, it means your mind is affected in a certain way. And then that affection, that being affected, creates the trap and you start moving. Tantra says, understand the mechanism of the mind. Cut the root. Don't choose. Because when you choose, you get identified. Whatsoever you choose, you become. in a certain way, one with it. This is the key. Whatever you choose, you get identified. Whatsoever you choose, you become in a certain way, one with it. So as Mansi says, but choice happens naturally. What's the way out? Well, if you examine, every mind state is arising out of a choice, right? Can you think of one negative emotional mind state which is not coming because of a choice? Anyone? Anyone mind states that pulls you down which doesn't have its root in the capacity to choose?
Choose the mind state or not? Is that your question?
No, that also is a choice, but give me any negative mind state you go into. Irritation. So you're irritated because you have a choice of how you want the person to behave. You have a preference. If you didn't have that, you'd not be irritated. Anxiety, you have a choice of how you want the future events to turn out. If you didn't have that choice or a preference, you wouldn't have irritation, right?
What about something like failure?
So you have a choice that you want success.
Not pain.
Huh?
Pain.
You have a choice that you don't want the preference rather, that you don't want the sensation of pain. Fear, you fear is anxiety, no? You fear something will happen and you don't want it to happen. So you have a choice that I want a future a preference, that you want the future outcome to be like this, not that. So every real negative mind state or emotion is coming out of our capacity to choose. And whatever we choose, we get identified with that. Like if a mind state of anxiety arises, we get identified with that mind state of anxiety. It becomes us. And it's funny, we are generating these mind states and then we are constantly resisting them. We don't like anxiety. We have generated it, but we don't like to feel it. We wish it away. So it's like we are constantly creating something and resisting it, constantly creating something and resisting it. And whatever you resist persists. The more you say anxiety, go away, I shouldn't have it, blah, 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 the more it builds. So that's obviously not the way. So let's see what the way is. You are crying. When you are crying, you have become one with the crying. There is nobody to watch it, then there is nobody to see it. Be alert and aware of it. You are lost in crying. You have become the tears and the red swollen eyes, and your heart is in a crisis. Teachers like Gurdjieff, when they say not to be identified, they say, cry, nothing is wrong in it, but stand by the side and look at it. Don't be identified. And it's a wonderful experience if you can stand by the side, cry. Let the body cry, let the tears flow. Don't surpass it because suppression helps nobody. But stand by the side and watch. This can be done because your inner being is a witness. It is never a doer. Whenever you think it is a doer, there is an identification. It is never a doer. You can walk the whole earth. Your inner being never walks a single step. You can dream millions of dreams. Your inner being never dreams a single dream. All movements are on the surface. Deep in the depth of your being, there is no movement. All movements are on the periphery, just like a wheel moves. But at the center, nothing moves. At the center, everything remains as it is. And on the center, the wheel moves. So, what Osho is saying, that when negative emotional states arise, we again make a choice. I don't want to feel them. And that makes you more identified with them. That's like that monkey holding on to the fruit. Can't be free till he lets go of it. So instead of wishing away those mind states, just stand apart and witness. Be fully present to the movement of crying, greed, whatever, but know that that's not you. The real you, the inner being, is the witness, which is like the center of the wheel. The wheel goes round and round, but the witness doesn't move. And that's who you really are. And if you just watch from that poise, everything that's out of balance just auto-corrects itself. Everything just falls into place.
So in case of crying,
Come, Madhushi. Huh.
in the case of crying, it's okay to sit and cry because you don't think it's a terrible thing to do.
Yeah.
But what if that instead of crying is anger? In
Yeah.
anger, everyone says don't express it. But if
So you don't have to express it or dump it on someone, but in your own space you bring all your awareness to anger and witness the anger fully.
But without like crying or expressing it, you're allowing the crying,
Yeah.
allowing the tears,
Yeah.
you're not hiding them from
Yeah,
anyone.
yeah,
Although you may do it quietly in one room.
yeah.
But so similarly for anger, what
Same
is the
th-
expression?
The expression, if you look into your body, Purvi, you'll find anger may be heat behind your ears. Every emotion will always have a counterpart in the body. Or if you aren't sensitized to that and you don't feel it in the body, at least be present to the mind state of anger. See, when he's saying be present to crying, he's not just meaning the act of watching tears. He's meaning the be present to the whole plethora of emotions that come with the crying. I mean, there's nothing to see in water dripping down your eyes. It's not that simplistic that he means. He means just be present to the whole mind state. Outer being is, everything in you that moves is the outer being, and that in you which never moves is the inner being. Huh? Of course there is. That's what yoga is all about. So the innermost being, some of you will recollect this was the theme of our meditation yesterday. The innermost being is just like a mirror. Whatsoever comes before it, it mirrors. It simply becomes a witness. So it's a beautiful metaphor that your innermost being is like a mirror. Whatever comes before it, it mirrors. It simply becomes a witness. Disease comes or health, hunger or satiety, summer or winter, childhood or old age, birth or death. Whatever happens, happens before the mirror. It never happens to the mirror. It's beautiful. If you have a mirror in front of you, just now Komal comes in front of it, the mirror will reflect her. Komal goes, Anjan comes in front of it, the mirror will reflect Anjan. The mirror will reflect anyone, but it will never become Komal, it will never become Anjan. So it's a brilliant metaphor for the mind. Whatever thoughts you have are reflections in the mirror of the mind, but it's not, the mind is not that. It appears to be that to somebody who doesn't know the truth of a mirror. Seeing Komal's reflection in the mirror, you'll think that Komal is in the mirror and the mirror is Komal. But little bit if you know about the science of mirrors, you'll know that mirror doesn't have Komal. Komal's just a reflection. She'll go away, something else will be reflected, something else will be reflected. So you should regard thoughts and emotions just as reflections in the mirror of your mind. They'll come and go. Don't get identified with it. So, whatsoever comes before it, it mirrors. It simply becomes a witness. Disease comes or health, hunger or I read all this. This is non-identification. This is cutting the root, the very root, to become a mirror. And to me, this is sannyas, to become like a mirror. Don't become like a very sensitive photo plate. This is identification. In a camera, when light falls on the film, it catches the image. So he's saying your mind can be like a sensitive camera film which just captures the image and gets stuck with it, or a mirror. Whatsoever comes before the lens of the camera, the photo plate immediately takes it in, becomes one with it. Become like a mirror. Things come and pass, and the mirror remains vacant, empty, void. This is the no self of Tilopa. Tilopa is a student, is a master who's written the Tantra Sutras. So that's who he's referring to. This is the no self of Tilopa. The mirror has no self to be identified with. It simply reflects. It does not react. It simply responds. It doesn't say this is beautiful, that is ugly. An ugly woman stands before it. The mirror is as happy as when a beautiful woman stands before it. It makes no difference. It reflects whatsoever is the case, but it doesn't interpret. It doesn't say, go away, you disturb me very much, or come a little closer, you're so beautiful. The mirror says nothing. The mirror simply watches without any distinction, friend or foe. The mirror has no distinctions to make. And when somebody passes, goes away from the mirror doesn't cling to it. The mirror has no past. Such a beautiful metaphor, na? Try.
Someone like a Ramana Maharshi, what do? Because there are no thoughts coming.
It's a blank mirror.
They don't have anything to observe.
They observe reality without thoughts. Their senses are functioning, so they see objects, they hear things. But can you imagine seeing something with no interpreting? Varun, just get her a chair, please. There's a chair there. You can come here. Here, there's place. Okay. So, can you imagine seeing without any interpreting thought, like seeing Bijal and not having a thought, this is Bijal, just seeing her as an object? I mean, it would just completely change. One can only guess they are probably just seeing everything as a continuum of God. So that's why there's no choice. If everything is God, which spectrum of God will I like better than another? It's not possible. So, try to understand this metaphor of the mirror, because this is the real situation of the inner consciousness. Rama, we are on page of the PDF, we are on page 1, 2, 3, 3. We on the 5th page? 4th page perhaps, na? 4th page. So this is the no self of Tilopa. The mirror has no self to be identified with. It simply reflects. I read that. An ugly woman comes, it reflects that. A beautiful woman comes, it reflects that. Try to understand the metaphor of the mirror, because this is the real situation of the inner consciousness. Don't get identified by things that are happening around you. You remain centered and rooted in your being. Things are happening and they will continue to happen. But if you can be centered in your mirror-like consciousness, nothing will be the same. The whole has changed. You remain virgin, innocent, pure. Nothing can become an impurity to you, absolutely nothing, because nothing is reflected, is retained. You reflect for a moment, somebody is there, and then everything is gone. Your emptiness is untouched. Even while a mirror is reflecting somebody, there is nothing happening to the mirror. The mirror is not changing in any way. The mirror remains the same. This is cutting the very root. Watch greed. If greed arises, watch it. Watch sex. Watch anger, possessiveness, jealousy, all the different mind states that come, watch. One thing has to be remembered. You don't get identified. You simply watch. You simply look. You become a spectator. By and by, the quality of witnessing grows. You become able to see all the nuances of greed. It is very subtle. You become capable of seeing how subtly the ego functions. How subtle are its ways. It's not a gross thing. It is a very subtle and delicate and deep hidden. The more you watch, the more your eyes become capable of seeing, become more perceptive. The more you see and deeper you can move, the more distance is created between you and whatsoever you do. Distance helps, because without distance there can be no perception. Osho is saying a very important thing. If a mind state of greed arises, or a mind state of inadequacy arises, and I'm identified with it, I cannot really know it. It's like if something's stuck on my eye, can I see it? I need to create a distance between my eye and the object so that I can really see it. So if I'm identified with a movement of consciousness, it controls me because I don't know it enough to have any control over it, right? If I know how to, the workings of a car, I can drive it. But if the car is stuck on my eye and I can't see its gears, its clutches, anything, how will I drive it? So the moment you're identified with a mind state, you have no control to change it. It controls you. Yeah? So if you create a distance between the mind state and you can really see it, you can really know it. That you can really control it, master it, let it go. Then you can be that monkey who lets go of the fruit. The fruit is identification. If you're identified with a mind state, you're stuck. But the moment you release identification, you are free. The more you watch, the more your eyes become capable of seeing. A distance is needed, and nothing can give you a distance except witnessing. You try it and see. The witness is an outsider. By its very nature, the witness can never become an insider. Find out this witness, and then you're standing on top of the hill. And everything goes on in the valley and you are not concerned. It's a beautiful thought to think, who I really am, I'm up on a hill. Thoughts are happening in a valley below. Whatever is happening in the valley below is not affecting me because I'm sitting up on a hill. You simply see what is your concern. It is as if it's happening to somebody else, and it's the same with greed, it's the same with anger. Everything is very complex, and you will enjoy it if you can watch negative, positive, all the emotions. You simply remember one thing, that you have to be a watcher. Then the identification is broken, then the root is cut. And once the root is cut, once you think the root of your suffering, that's what he's talking about. The root is cut when you don't identify. And once the root is cut, once you think you're not the doer, everything suddenly changes. And the change is sudden. There is no gradualness to it. This is a Tantra Sutra, what's in italics. Cut the root of the trees and the leaves will wither. Cut the root of your mind and samsara will fall. So samsara is the phenomenal world you see around you, the world of this I like, that I don't like. You cut the root of your mind, identification and samsara falls. The moment you cut the root of the mind, the identification with the samsara falls. The whole world falls like a house of cards. Just a small wind of awareness and the whole house falls. Buddhists use mind in two senses, mind with a small m and mind with a capital M. When they use mind with a capital M, they mean the witness consciousness. And when they use mind with a small m, they mean the witness. Witness. So capital M mind is the witness and small m mind is the witnessed. So in other words, Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is the mind with the capital M and Prakriti is the mind with the small m. Understood? With capital M you are the witness and with the small m you are the witnessed. Thoughts, emotions, anger, greed, everything. Why use the same word? Why create confusion? There is a reason for it, because when the mind with a capital M arises, the mind with a small m is simply absorbed in it. As rivers fall into the oceans, the millions of minds around the great mind all fall into it. The energy is reabsorbed. Greed, anger, jealousy, they were energies moving outwards centrifugally. Centrifugal forces that when something is moving in a circle, things get thrown outward from the center to the outside. You see that in a mixer, no? You see things being thrown out, so that's centrifugal force. So it says that when these energies of greed, anger, jealousy moving outwards centrifugally, suddenly when the mind with the capital M arises, the witness sits there silently watching and all the rivers change their course. They were going centrifugally towards their periphery. Suddenly they turn back, they become centripetal. This is a little bit of physics. When something moves like that, the centrifugal force is that which throws things outwards. Centripetal force is that which brings things towards the center. So when you're the mind with the small m, your mind is always running out. I don't like this person, I like that person, it's outwards. But when the witness arises, suddenly the greed, jealousy, anger, everything becomes insignificant and dissolves and you get pulled inwards. When you're with negative mind states, your energies are moving centrifugally, they are going out. But when the witness arises, everything turns inwards. So, all practice is of the mind. Whatsoever you do is of the mind. Only witnessing is not of the mind. Remember this. So, Osho goes as far as saying that witnessing is meditation. Till you haven't touched the witness, you're just skirting the peripheries of meditation. In a way, Sri Aurobindo also says that when he says that spiritual life really begins for you when you learn to live in the peace behind. The peace behind is the witness, no? Otherwise, we are just, like Osho says, there are two kinds of people. One kind of people who keep getting mixed up with everything, and another kind of people who stand apart and watch. And well, in a way, it's true that spirit is the witness, right? So till you touch the spirit, you haven't really begun your spiritual journey, no? Because devotion and all are beautiful, but devotion is also a movement of the mind. And eventually, anyone who starts with the movement of devotion also finally ends up discovering the peace behind. It leads you there. So, it's very important to be a witness, because the other day I was teaching my standard 10 Patanjali's Yoga Sutra on the effects of a good yoga practice. His Sutra 2.28 gives you the effects of a good yoga practice. So, I was asking them that what would you say has been the effect of doing yoga? And one of them said, it makes me more rational. So I said, what does that mean? So she's saying, otherwise my reactions were very illogical and impulsive. I've become more rational. Now, where does that rationality come from? It cannot come anywhere but from the witness. Because if you're identified with your emotions make you irrational, no? We've seen that when the emotional storm settles down, you realize how irrationally I was thinking. But if you're poised in the witness, that emotion of greed comes, you're not identified with it, you won't let it control you. You'll watch it. And moment you watch it, you'll see things about it, you'll see things about yourself, you see things about the person concerned, and you'll be more logical, you'll be more intelligent in your responses. And in fact, that sutra does say that. What are the 3 effects of a good yoga practice? Ashuddhi shaye, impurities are destroyed, impurities of your mind. Gyan diptira, the light of intuition starts shining. You intuit things rather than think them from your mind. And third is avivekyate. That's not in the PDF, Purvi. That I'm just saying. Avivekyate is the ability to distinguish between what's real and what's your imagination. So this little girl had cracked it without learning the sutra. She knew that one effect it gives you is avivekyate. The ability to see what's real and what your mind is just fabricating. Of course, later on in a deeper way, it means the ability to see that everything is Brahman and not samsara. But there are many levels of avivekyate, right? Many. Yes. But there are many levels of it. At this level, this is good enough. If I can be rational in my perception and vision, I'll have a life. I mean, when Sri Aurobindo says, man, you are the author of your suffering, he means it in every word and letter. Everything you suffer, somewhere you are the creator of your suffering. The mind is a creator of your suffering. And unless we learn to work with the mind, and work with the mind not in terms of its content, but we poise ourselves in something beyond the mind, which is the witness. That's where we get liberation. That's where the monkey who's holding the fruit and getting stuck in the jar releases the fruit and can retrieve his hand.
I just have one question, is that here he says that small m and big M, both are the mind. And later he says that only witnessing is not of the mind.
Yeah. So this large M is the witness. He means mind here as the mind with the small m.
And one more thing is that I've noticed, this is an observation, that there are a lot of people who are extremely passionate. Now, for them, their whole motivation of life comes from that passion. If that passion dissolves, then they would mean anything.
No, they wouldn't.
The ideal way is to witness that passion also anyway.
No, Purvi, there's no ideal way. Sri Aurobindo says, in my yoga, there are as many paths as there are sadhaks. So, if this person needs to live this lifetime of passion, that's his way. There's no should that he should move from passion to witnessing of the passion. He can't. Everyone has a season to do things, and maybe in this lifetime it's not his season at all. Yeah.
Osho said that when we witness, we don't become the doers. But is it witnessing also doing?
No,
We are
no,
witnessing
no.
the thought.
No. It starts with a little effort. But when that effort is there, the witnessing hasn't started. When the actual witnessing happens, it's completely effortless. You just fall into a poise where you're just watching. But in the beginning, there's effort. You're paving the way to witnessing. You're not actually witnessing.
Yeah. And when we say love is identification,
Love is identification?
love means you identify with the person.
Love is no, identification not with the person but with the whole.
With the whole of that person.
The whole universe, not the person. Love is not identification with any part of the whole. Love is like there's that line in Savitri, all love is a yearning of the one for the one. So everything is God and you're identified with that. So you have no preference of this person you've identified with over that person.
But if I'm in love with somebody, then
But
I'm
that
supposed
is
to
not the
identify with the entire
But
person.
that is half the time infatuation, Anjan. That's not the
Infatuation would be when I would want a particular aspect and not the other aspect. But if I'm identifying with the entire person.
But how can you identify with a person without identifying with the whole? I don't know how it can be
the
done.
whole of that person. I'm
Not,
talking about worldly love.
it can't
I'm not
happen.
talking about-
Then worldly, see, you can't really love in a worldly way till you first loved in a divine way. Until you know divine love, whatever you you have of a human being, it's going to be a very dilated form of the real love. So, okay, let's do a little practice on what Osho said because it can be very useful to all of you. Sit tall and with your eyes open or shut, just watch the thoughts that are going on in your mind. And notice you're getting affected by every thought. A pleasant thought is making you feel pleasant. An unpleasant thought is making you feel unpleasant. But instead of getting identified with the thoughts, just use the metaphor. Your mind is a mirror. Thoughts are reflections in the mirror, just the way a reflection doesn't affect the mirror. Your consciousness is that mirror which is only appearing to get affected. But in truth, when the thought goes, it comes back to its empty mirror self. Or another metaphor, you're sitting high up on a hill, thoughts are happening in a valley below you. You are witnessing the thoughts without getting affected by them. They are coming and going. You keep reminding yourself, I am not the thought. The thought is outside, down in a valley below. It comes and goes. It doesn't affect me. So just a minute, step back and see if you can be the watcher of thoughts instead of the thinker. And slowly open your eyes. Did you get some glimpse of the witnessing? Anyone? Fraction of a second. That's also very good. You know, out of half an hour, even 30 seconds, if you can witness, it shifts something in you.
I went to sleep in that once.
No, you don't feel you have no memory of it. So you feel you've gone to sleep. Huh. And see, yes. And that's very peaceful, isn't it? And that is the peace behind. Yes, yes.
Maybe must be there, but that awareness of thoughts
was not there. So that's the peace behind Sri Aurobindo's talking about. Learn to live in the peace behind. That's when you begin the spiritual life.
At home, then your motivation purely becomes in a guiding force, which is intuition.
Yes, yes.
And that happens when you keep your eyes shut. When you are seeing.
So initially you do it for 10-15, I say even 5 minutes many times a day is good. Instead of sitting half an hour at a stretch, 5 minutes many times a day is good, because then the current of that will continue with your eyes open, but it will be weaker. But with practice, even with your eyes open, when a thought comes and affects you, you learn to step back and witness it. And you'll say, no, I'm not this thought. I'm on a mountain, the thought is in a valley below, I'm not being affected. I mean, it might start with a thought, that's not witnessing, but it paves the way for the actual witnessing. So in fact, Osho, then what Purvi was saying, then where's the motivation? How will I achieve in life? How will I get things done if I'm just going to be a witness? But remember, a tree doesn't have thought, doesn't have ego, but it makes food by photosynthesis, its roots go to, there is an organic intelligence that is working in the tree even without ego or thought. The same intelligence is working in us and actually doing everything. When we don't know that, the ego comes, which says I must get things done. But if I fully know that, then in a way there's no question of the ego, because I'm recognizing that that is anyway doing everything. How can I claim any credit or discredit for it? And I thought this little poem by John Burroughs, it's called Waiting. So this is really describing the state of the witness. Serene, I fold my hands and wait, no care for wind, nor tide, nor sea. I rave no more against time or fate, for lo, my own shall come to me. So the witness knows that there's this intelligence in the universe which will just bring what's meant to be for me. I don't have to chase it, I don't have to run after it, it comes to me. For lo, my own shall come to me. I stay my haste, stay means stop, my haste, I make delays. For what avails this eager pace? I stand amid the eternal ways, and what is mine shall know my face. So beautiful. The universe will make sure that what is mine will know my face and come to me. I don't have to be driven by my ego to chase it, to feel it will be taken away. It's just in the safekeeping of the universe. Haven't you often observed that you've chased something and it runs away? And when you just surrender and say, okay, Mother, your will, unexpectedly the door opens and you get what you want when you've surrendered it. There's that beautiful song, the potter knows the clay, how much pressure it can take, potter's God, How many times around the wheel till their submission to his will, until the clay finally surrenders to his will. He's planned a beautiful design, but it will take some fire and time. It's going to be okay because the potter knows the clay. So that's the thought in this. So a witness is naturally the surrendered one without any effort to surrender. So in Sufism, the witness is called the Shaheed. Shaheed is the martyred one, but this is not martyred in a negative sense. It's in the one who's just saying okay, like that, without first turmoil or anything arising. There's just an infinite unconditional surrender. So, asleep, awake by night or day, the friends I seek are seeking me. No wind can drive my bark astray, nor change the tide of destiny. What matter if I stand alone? I wait with joy the coming years. My heart shall reap where it hath sown, and garner up its fruit of tears. The waters know their own and draw, the brook that springs in yonder height. So flows the good with equal law unto the soul of pure delight. The stars come nightly to the sky, the tidal wave unto the sea. Nor time, nor space, nor deep, nor high can keep my own away from me. So this is a beautiful take home from this, is that what's mine will know my face and find me. I don't have to chase, and I don't have to feel that anyone can take it away from me. And it's a great thing when I'm fearing failure, when I'm fearing manipulation by colleagues or whatever, just to know that mother's keeping what's mine and she's going to give it to me. Nobody can take it away. If it doesn't come to me, it's not meant to be mine. If it comes to me, not any power in the universe can stop it coming to my lap. And there's a great truth to it.
But anyway, if you're practicing choicelessness, it doesn't happen.
But very few of us are. So all these are things on the way. So this is synthesis of yoga, Sri Aurobindo. The Lord sees in his omniscience, all-seeing nature, the thing that has to be done. This seeing is his will. It is a form of creative power. And that which he sees, the all-conscious mother, one with him, takes into her dynamic self and embodies. An executive nature force carries it out as the mechanism of their omnipotent, all-powerful omniscience, all-knowingness. But this vision of what is to be, and therefore of what is to be done, arises out of the very being, pours directly out of the consciousness and delight of existence of the Lord, spontaneously like light from the sun. It is not our mortal attempt to see, our difficult arrival at truth of action and motive or just demand of nature. When the individual soul is entirely at one in its being and knowledge with the Lord, and directly in touch with the original Shakti, the transcendent mother, the supreme will can then arise in us too, in the high divine manner, as the thing that must be and is achieved by the spontaneous action of this nature. There is then no desire, no responsibility, no reaction. All takes place in the peace, calm, light, power of the supporting and enveloping and inhabiting divine. So beautiful. So Sri Aurobindo is describing the state of one who lives in this kind of choicelessness. Then he has no will of his own, because the ego which can will is gone, right? So who will will? So when Ramana Maharishi, was it Ramana Maharishi? I think so. When he got cancer and his devotees would ask him that why don't you put your force to heal yourself? So he said, but who is left who can will such a thing? Do you get the impact of his answer? He was so disidentified with his mind and body that there was no personal Ramana left to will it. He's saying, I can only channel the divine will. So if the divine wills this body to be healed, it will heal. I have no personal will of my own to will anything. So he says another very beautiful thing, Ramana, beautiful. He says, the bound cannot choose and the free do not choose. Do you get it? If we are bound, if we are caught in the ego, we think we have free will, but actually we have no free will. And those who are really free, the monkey who has released the fruit, does not choose, he is choiceless, he just executes the divine will. So the bound cannot choose and the free do not choose. So that's what Sri Aurobindo is saying. In that state, there is no desire, no responsibility, no reaction. All takes place in the peace, calm, light, power of the supporting and enveloping and inhabiting divine. But even before that highest approach to identity is achieved, something of the supreme will can manifest in us as an imperative impulsion, a God-driven action. We then act by a spontaneous, self-determining force, but a fuller knowledge of meaning and aim arises only afterwards, or the impulse to action may come as an inspiration or intuition, but rather in the heart and body than in the mind. Here an effective sight enters in, but the complete exact knowledge is still deferred and comes, if at all, later. But the divine will may descend to as a luminous single command, or a total perception, or a continuous current of perception of what is to be done into the will or into the thought, or as a direction from above spontaneously fulfilled by the lower members. Okay, so we won't read the rest of it. Basically, he is saying that either it can be a complete choicelessness when the divine will acts through you, or it can be sometimes this, sometimes that. Sometimes you are channeling the divine will and sometimes your ego is interfering and refracting the divine will. Finally, it's the divine will only which gets executed, but it can be a little refracted or distorted by your ego. That's why Mother says, when Mother was asked, is it true that always the best happens? She says, if your consciousness is in the best, then the best happens. But if your consciousness is not in the best, then the divine does the best that it can within the matrix of your consciousness. So it's not an absolute blanket truth to say that only the best happens. If your consciousness is best, then the best happens. But otherwise, if your consciousness attracts different things, then still the divine protection helps you the most it can within that. Oh, this beautiful sonnet of Sri Aurobindo's called Surrender. So, person who's choiceless, probably this is his poem. O thou, of whom I am the instrument, O secret spirit and nature housed in me. So, in all of us, our God nature is the secret spirit and nature housed in us. Let all my mortal being now be blent in thy still glory of divinity. So let everything in me merge into you. I don't want any part of me which I call mine. I have given my mind to be dug, thy channel mind. So I have given up. Mind means my free will, my choices, everything. You dig it into your channel mind. I have offered up my will to be thy will. Let nothing of myself be left behind in our union mystic and unutterable. So in Ramana's case, and actually all the enlightened beings, we see they don't have a free will, they don't have a personal will. I have offered up my will to be thy will. Let nothing of myself be left behind in our union mystic and unutterable. My heart shall throb with the world beats of thy love. My body become thy engine for earth use. In my nerves and veins thy rapture stream shall move. My thoughts shall be hounds of light for thy power to lose. So my heart shall throb with the world beats of thy love. My heartbeat also won't belong to me. My heartbeat will be the world beat of your love. My body become your engine for earth use. In my nerves and veins thy raptures, your delight, your ananda will move. My thought shall be hounds of light for thy power to lose. Keep only my soul to adore eternally and meet thee in each form and soul of thee. So he's saying, take away everything, take away my mind, make it into your channel mind, take away my heart, take away my body, but let me feel my soul. So that one duality where my soul can see you in everything. If I become totally one with you, then I can't experience you or love you in other forms. So keep only my soul to adore eternally and meet thee in each form and soul of thee. I'll read this again. Exceptionally exquisite piece of writing. O thou, of whom I am the instrument, O secret spirit and nature housed in me, let all my mortal being now be blent in thy still glory of divinity. I have given my mind to be dug, thy channel mind. I have offered up my will to be thy will. Let nothing of myself be left behind in our union mystic and unutterable. My heart shall throb with the world beats of thy love. My body become thy engine for earth use. In my nerves and veins thy rapture stream shall move. My thoughts shall be hounds of light for thy power to lose. Keep only my soul to adore eternally and meet thee in each form and soul of thee. Last passage for today is a passage from Savitri, again very beautiful. So Savitri is responding to death. What liberty has the soul which feels not free unless stripped bare and cannot kiss the bonds the lover winds around his playmate's limbs? So imagine a Mahatma like Ramana Maharishi or even Sri Aurobindo. He never did anything till he got the Adesh. He never had a will where he thought and decided. Whatever the Adesh came, he just followed it. So in a way they were slaves, right, of that will. A slave is one who only follows what the master says. So they were completely enslaved by the divine. I mean, to the extent that they didn't have a will of their own. So he's saying, what liberty has the soul which feels not free? The soul doesn't feel free Unless stripped bare and cannot kiss the bonds, the lover winds around his playmate's limbs. So it's like, to make it very simple, suppose the Mahatma, the sage, is the playmate of God. That Mahatma is such a slave of God that his freedom is in being completely bound by God to his will. That is his freedom. Why does Sri Aurobindo call that freedom? What liberty has the soul which feels not free unless stripped bare and cannot kiss the bonds the lover winds around his playmate's limbs? What? Absolute freedom, because you don't have a will. A free will is your bondage, right? That's what we discussed, the monkey putting the hand and getting trapped. If he's totally surrendered to God and enslaved by God, he doesn't have a free will. If he doesn't have free will, he can't have bondage. An apparent free will. Actually, such a person has infinite free will, because his free will is the free will of God. But he doesn't have an egoistic personal free will. So he's choiceless, he's completely free, nothing can make him unhappy. What liberty has the soul which feels not free unless stripped bare and cannot kiss the bonds the lover winds around his playmate's limbs, choosing his tyranny, crushed in his embrace? So in a little, when mother was in her body in Pondicherry, if people needed to, like the youth who were in school with her, if they needed to go for a simple thing like a cricket match happening in Chennai or something, a list would be sent to her. She would tick some names, not some names. If they had to do a simple thing like a tooth extraction, they couldn't go without her permission. Now, you may feel that, what is this? But they didn't feel that. They felt so carefree. They didn't have to use their mind to think about anything. No decision to take. Otherwise, should I get this surgery done? Should I not? Here, just write to mother. She says, yes, you do it. She says, no, you don't do it. So in a way, isn't that ultimate freedom? There's no burden to think or decide. What liberty has the soul which feels not free unless stripped bare and cannot kiss the bonds the lover winds around his playmate's limbs, choosing his tyranny, crushed in his embrace, to seize him better with her boundless heart, she accepts the limiting circle of his arms. What a play of words. To seize him, S-E-I-Z-E, seize means capture. To seize him better with her boundless heart. God has captured the devotee, but the devotee has also captured God. To seize him better with her boundless heart, she accepts the limiting circle of his arms. So she has captured him with her boundless heart, and she accepts the limiting circle of his arms. She's bound in those arms. Bows full of bliss beneath his mastering hands, and laughs in his rich constraints, most bound, most free. This is my answer to thy lures, O death. I'll read this passage again. What liberty has the soul which feels not free unless stripped bare and cannot kiss the bonds the lover winds around his playmate's limbs, choosing his tyranny, crushed in his embrace? To seize him better with her boundless heart, she accepts the limiting circle of his arms, bows full of bliss beneath his mastering hands, and laughs in his rich constraints, most bound, most free. This is my answer to thy lures, O death. So we end with this. Next Saturday I'm not going to be in town, so there'll be no Savitri class. Let's conclude with 3 ohms.